Hello, Dream Team. Welcome along. A little Good Bad Rugby reacts. Why not? Because the big news hasn't broken with confirmation yet, but it looks highly, highly likely that the England captain, Owen Farrell, or certainly the England captain during the Rugby World Cup, is off to France again, but this time to play in the colours of Racing 92. We await confirmation, but I think where there's smoke, there's often a lot of fire with these sorts of things. Hask is alongside, as is Jonny May. It's a podcast, so you...
Yeah, you have to say hi, just say something. You all right?
It's very nice to have you with us.
He's saving his voice.
We're going to do a main show this week, as per usual, which we're very much looking forward to. Yeah. But I do want to get into this just for 10 minutes or so, because it feels like it's a big slab of news, whichever way you cut it, because of everything that's happened around Owen, because of what he's given to England, because of the noise that seems to sit whenever you mention his name. If and as and when it is confirmed, your reaction to the fact that Owen Farrell is off to Racing 92 is what?
No, I'd be pleased for him if it's something that he wants to do and he wants that change of environment and a new challenge. I think that's brilliant for him. I haven't spoken to him about that. I did message him when it came out that he was not going to do the Six Nations because of, well, like the words were like mental well-being. Those were the words that were used, and I think maybe that was misconstrued a little bit, because that's what my concern was, is like, are you and Georgie and the kids and you guys all okay? But he said, yeah, he's fine. So I think it was more a case of just wanting a break from that, really.
Did you know during the World Cup that the pressure and the noise and the negativity was having an impact? The
one bit that the stuff around the red card and then the not red card and the ban and stuff, that did get a bit too much. That was quite shocking how intense that circus became, and I'm sure that probably would have taken its toll on anybody, really.
Your thoughts on the deal if it happens?
I was very surprised, I never thought I would see Owen leave Saracens, because I think he is synonymous with them and their resurgence and everything that they've done and the amazing work that he's put in. You know, he was there from 14, 15 with his dad. You know, he's been an incredible servant for that club. He cares, you know, so passionately about their success. And you know, he is a fulcrum of which Marrow and Jamie George and lots of other boys have kind of come up through the ranks, where we've now got a team that's probably one of the most experienced European and domestic kind of champions. So I was surprised. I know people were throwing sort of Wigan around and him going back to rugby league. I think that would have been more of an exciting thing, because that would have, I just love that kind of real U-turning career, you know, which I know a little bit about in terms of stuff off the field and while I played. And you know, I think it's an amazing sport, rugby league, and I think he would have done really well. But again, you would have been your dad's shadow, because you know, I probably wouldn't want to.
I reckon the Racing contract's got a couple of extra zeros on it compared to the Wigan one. It would have been with the greatest of respect.
No, of course, it would have been a bigger challenge as well. I was just having had Jason Robinson on the tour recently, he kind of reignited my passion for that Wigan team back in the day and all the stories that went with it. I think him going to France is huge if it happens. Part of me still doesn't wonder if it isn't a little bit of a negotiating ploy. Because, you know, what better way to push the contract if you're speaking to people, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a last little bit of deadline. Actually, I've decided to stay, because the only way you'll ever get the money out of a club is if the team think you're going to leave. And if they think you'll never leave, and would you have said Owen Farrell was going to leave Saracens? I would never have said he was going to leave. So this could either be the greatest marketing ploy known to man, and he's about to sign the the outlier contract. What's it called? The you know, when you get the you're not in the salary cap. What's it called? The
marquee player.
Marquee player. Obviously, he was already on it. The marquee player of all marquee players. You know, finish on a couple of middle of the year, living the dream, or he'll go to Racing, and I think he'll get a shock. But I think it'll in terms of what it's like over there, because it is very attritional. It's very difficult. It's very tough. But I think it'll be amazing for him and his family, and to play in those kind of games. So I'm excited from either way. He's a great man. He deserves every success, and I think if this means he'll get to try himself, you know, test himself in another sphere, which is what he always wants to do. You know, I think it's amazing. So I couldn't be happy for him either way. If he stays and takes the money, great. If he goes and accepts a new challenge, he deserves it. I think he's brilliant. I think he'll do really well over there. I think he'll find it. I mean, I don't know what the French league's like now, but I imagine, especially with Stuart Lancaster coaching, you know, I'm sure it'll be much more Anglo-Saxons and sort of approach to training discipline. but there's obviously a lot of stuff.
Anglicised.
Anglicised, sorry, that's the word. Anglicised. There is, very much more anglicised over there. So I think he'll find it interesting, but I think he'll find it frustrating, the travelling and the touring and the emotion and everything else. But what a way to go. And he's still got a real fire in him. He's only 33. 32 even.
Yeah.
He's only 32. There's so much more that he can do. And I wonder whether he takes a couple of years, comes back even stronger, and goes back to England for the next World Cup.
I love that, and we've spoken on this show a couple of times about the fact that, and you can entirely empathise with why he hasn't, but he's never really put his voice out there, and he hasn't said a lot, and you can now see why, because when he does, there's a lot that comes through. I love the fact that in the last 2 moves he's made, he's totally grabbed back his own narrative.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like instead of having to...
He's done more talking without saying a word.
Which I think is very, very cool. And I'm really excited for him to go and have the opportunity to kind of just try something new, to go and really enjoy his rugby again without all of the noise that comes around every time he puts on an England jersey.
But I think the scrutiny will come, but I think you'll be doing it in a different setting. You'll be challenging yourself in a different way. Your passion to prove yourself is reignited. He'll be working with some superstars in that Racing team. Sia Khaleesi. You've got Henry Arundel's now in the mix. You've got Stuart Lancaster coaching, as we've talked about. There's so many stars in that team.
Yeah.
In that amazing stadium that they're now playing, the indoor arena. I just think it's a complete another chapter. And has he squeezed out all the juice over here that's possible to squeeze? Yeah. He's won everything. Bar winning a World Cup. And actually, everybody knows how hostile the UK media are in comparison to anywhere in the world. I think going over there, it'd be nice to have a bit of positivity, I think, and also to play and to test himself. And I think, Johnny Sexton went there, Dan Carter went there,
Finn Russell
went there. It's nice to see how he fits into that and what he can bring. And I think, will his style suit the French? Will they enjoy it? Will we see because when people criticise Owen for playing for England, they say that he stops people playing outside him, or he kicks all the time and he's very contrived. But actually, he plays what's in front of him a lot of the time, and I think his game will adapt to the game he's playing in France and what suits French rugby and what suits the players around him. So I'm expecting us to see another iteration of Owen Farrell.
Does he still get picked for a Lions tour in 18 months' time, playing his rugby in Paris?
Yeah, I think so. I think. Like I just said, I'm happy for him that he's got this opportunity, and it's obviously something that he wants to do. He deserves the opportunity to go and do what he wants. He's given so much to Saracens and England, and of course, if he's playing well and is the player that he is, and probably improves, he's definitely got a shout with that. And 2 years there, like Faz says, 32 years old, he could definitely come back and probably do another World Cup as well. So maybe it is just what's it called when you have a break from work?
Like a little sabbatical.
That's the one. Yeah, maybe it's just a nice sabbatical, but play some cool rugby in France and just have a break from everything over here.
The only problem with the sabbatical is that you normally want a sabbatical and put your feet up somewhere.
This ain't that.
This ain't that. That's the only caveat to all of it that I've seen. I think he's going from out the frying pan into the fire. There's no easy games in that French league. I know they still have.
But it's but I think I don't know from Adam, but I think that would probably fit quite well.
Of course,
because the rugby is still exactly where he wants it, but the crap and the noise and the speculation and the online attention is sort of parked to one side.
Yeah, and I think if you're going to talk about like making good rugby decisions, I think putting himself in he hasn't gone to Japan, or he hasn't traded into something else. He's gone to, arguably one of the most competitive, if not the most competitive league in the world, playing some unbelievable rugby, some unbelievable teams. We always still talk about as a player over here thriving on those European weekends. He's had more positive European weekends than anybody and lifted the Heineken Cup a number of times. He's now going there to take that experience to maybe do it again with Racing, which would be incredible.
That's the other quite interesting point about this, is that Racing are probably French rugby's nearly man at the moment. They haven't. They've been to a number of European finals and blown it. I'm not sure they've lifted the Bouclier de Brennus for a number of years, unless I've missed something. Could he? Would he? Has he got the potential to be the missing link?
Yeah, for sure. He's a guy that wins and has done it. And he has a good relationship with Lanny, so it doesn't surprise me that that's the team that he's gone to, with how close he is with Lanny, and those two will work a great relationship, and he'll get hold of it. He'll be a huge asset to them.
That's a very good point, because remember when Stuart Lancaster took over from Martin Johnson. You know, Owen Farrell had been there or was sort of but very young, and he came all the way through. You know, that team was built around Owen and these other younger players that Stuart Lancaster brought through. Obviously, had his 4 years. Things didn't work out at the World Cup. That is a very interesting approach. You know, maybe Stuart's looked at it and gone, what is the one missing element? Someone with
northern grit.
That northern grit, that ability to have the discipline to make the right decisions under pressure. And can you buy that level of experience? You know, rarely, no. But with Owen, you can. You know, someone who's been there in the biggest games, who's still young enough to deliver, who still understands how to adapt the game plan, who's won consistently at both club and country. That's a pretty rare commodity. There's maybe 2 or 3 players who've done that. You know, even Finn Russell, to a point, he hasn't experienced. He's won some stuff, but not to that level. You know, Johnny Sexton, yes, he's an example. Dan Carter, yes, he's an example. Owen Farrell's up there with those 3, with those 10s who actually has won it everywhere, bar a World Cup, and that's the only thing that Johnny Sexton and Owen haven't done as a World Cup. I think maybe going over there as well will give him the extra 2%. So if he ever did come back play for England, he'd have much more experience and maybe that little bit of X factor.
I think there's growth in things people haven't seen that the French league could bring out of Faz as well. He's definitely got an offload game. He can hit great support lines, and those are 2 things you associate with French rugby: your support lines and offloads. I think it brings another level out of him. Not that he hasn't got it, but just a nice, refreshing way for him to play and get a spring back in his step. And
actually, if the players around you, like I never forget. When we had some of the guys came at Wasp back in the day, some of the All Blacks boys, or some of the sort of Kiwis. You know, their default setting was, for example, always looking for an offload. So even if it didn't go there, there'll be someone running there.
Yeah.
Over here, a lot of the time, people don't necessarily even look for it because it's unfamiliar to them. They're not accustomed to it, and it's very difficult to get people to start having a mindset. Obviously, if you watch Toulouse play, everywhere they go, there's always someone there. So even if they don't get it, someone will overrun it, but the next person's there. He's kind of, you see that, why Dupont's so good and why he causes so much trouble. When he bounces out, there's always options. In our game in the UK, certain players look for it, certain players don't. I don't think we're necessarily coached or it's bred into us because we didn't play a lot of touch when we were younger. We didn't have that mentality that kind of South Africans, Australians and Kiwis have. But in France, they have that to a degree. And I think it's a great point from Jonny. I think you'll see him maybe unlock complete other areas of his game because players around him will force him to do that.
And off the field, the Owen Farrell that you know, will he be rocking up at training on a Vespa in a beret with onions and a gouloir and going straight for the carafe of vin rouge, or will he be in the Volvo with the Times with a shipment of Wigan pies to keep him going?
I don't think he does either of those.
Does he not?
I think he just drives to training and gets some of his day and then drives home.
Come on, John LeMay, give me a little more than that. He'll just get the job done.
I reckon he'll get a nice Lamazocco coffee machine.
Right.
If that's not already there at the training centre.
Amount of cash he's got, he should fucking sponsor it.
He likes his coffee, but the French, from experience of the World Cup, they're not massive on like a nice flat white. It's hard to come by.
Yeah, very difficult. Like perfect espresso.
They love espresso and a cigarette, don't they?
Yeah. You don't have to have the cigarette with it.
No, that's what they like.
It's obligatory. One thing I did want to, and this is pure, I mean, obviously we're speculating at the moment, but it sounds quite likely that it's going to happen. The bigger element of speculation is that your point about staying at Sarries for life, I think he'd have probably continued to play, then become player coach, and then moved into the coaching box.
Yeah.
I just wonder whether you think he is probably the most ready-made coach that is currently playing. He and George Ford would probably be the 2. Do you think what has happened over the last 6 months has dented his appetite to stay in the game beyond big money paydays?
I think it's a great question. I think I'm actually a big believer in moving away completely from the club and the place that you want to ultimately coach and go and get other experience. I know that firsthand from what my experience of when I started at WAS and how indoctrinated I was to then when I took my leave to go to France to play there for 2 years, and the person I became and the world that I saw, and the fact that I didn't want to go back, and I went to Australia and Japan, and I learned so much more about myself and life. And I think good coaches are the ones that often don't move straight from playing, and 1 minute they're a player, next minute they're turning up pre-season, because very rare, look, it happens and it does work out, but look at your Ronan O'Gara's. They go off, they experience, they sample different leagues, different mentalities. They have the good times, they have the bad times, and then they come back in. I think that makes them a much more rounded coach. I actually think this will be better for Owen. I think go and play in France. Whatever happens after that, I think he will make his way back into coaching, but I wouldn't want to see him go straight into coach Saracens. I think it'd be too much pressure, be too much expectation. I think he'd want to go and cut his teeth, in different places, and then come back.
But do you think he will coach?
Yeah,
beyond
I think
play?
so. Well, I mean, my money's get harassing. Maybe, I don't know, it might be like Scrooge McDuck, have a little tower and he'll be swimming in it, and but the problem is the amount of money he's got under his mattress is it's about an 80-foot story house that we have.
Like Rapunzel.
Well, the Princess and the Pea.
Yeah,
the Princess and the boatload of cash. But I don't think it has dented him. I think this is obviously has affected him, but I think he's very resilient. I just think that the volume and intensity of the negativity that got. The England, the intensity that got into his family and everything else. We saw it firsthand how upset they all were about how badly he was treated. I think it's going to be a nice break. I think he'll go. I think he'll learn a lot about himself and about his family and about his teammates. And I think there'll be a few more rugby adventures to be had, but he'll definitely come back and coach. I don't think it's tainted it.
Yeah. The scrutiny stuff. I think if he wanted to still play for England, that wouldn't have put him off either. I don't think we need to look at too much into the well-being and the negative press or the positive press. I just think it's fine to say, I just want a break from this. I've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
I've given it everything, and I just want a bit of a change. I think it could just be as simple as that.
But I think you'd be entirely right in that if you were staying at Sarries. I think if you're saying I'm stepping back from England and now I'm off for probably 3 years to Paris, does that not...
He has said a couple of times, like in camp last time, that he would want to play abroad. He wants to experience something different. So that's obviously how Hask knows him. And from the outside, you think, it's been Saracens the whole way through. It will be Saracens, but he has let insight into the fact that he would like to explore and try something else new. So that one doesn't necessarily surprise me loads either.
I just love the fact that he's produced 2 jaw-dropping moments. You said, for a man who says nothing, he's said a hell of a lot without saying anything. Is the England door... And should the England door remain shut now? If you're Steve Borthwick, are you trying to do everything you can to get Test Centurions who play overseas a free pass?
I mean, look, we did
splitting hairs.
We did a whole show on it, didn't we? In regards to, I'm a big advocate changing the policy. I don't see it as a positive in any way to have sorry. Rephrase that. I'm a big believer in changing the policy. I think you should be allowed to play for England if you're abroad. I don't think it'll affect anything. I think it's fear mongering. I think there's no substance to any of it. People talk about an exodus. I think everything will rebalance, and I think he should be allowed to play. Whether he will be allowed to play now, no, I don't think so. I think they're not going to change the law for him. I don't. They made that certain situation or what's the word. With Johnny Wilkinson, they changed
an exemption.
An exemption, a specialist circumstance.
So I'm doing a crossword with you two. What's that word?
What's that
2
word?
little clues.
What's the word?
Did
9 letters.
Johnny Wilkinson? Did he have an exception?
Yeah.
Was Johnny
they
playing for England when he was playing for...
Exception.
They gave it was like special circumstances basically. But
so he was playing for England whilst he was playing in France.
Yeah, so was I.
Yeah, oh really? I don't know.
So was I. But obviously they didn't make up a rule to get me back. They just did it back for him. But what happened was my first year there, I think you could do it, and then they were saying they were going to change the rules, but then he went and they were like, actually, you've got a special exemption essentially to keep playing. No, he won't be picked for England. I think he should do, but he won't be.
You absolutely nailed it when we were nattering downstairs, and you said, watch the narrative change, which has been absolutely on him, at him. Everything that Owen Farrell has done has been criticised, and England. Hopefully they don't, but if they stumble once or twice, watch all the journalists who said, get him out, he's a disgrace, say, Christ, England have got to do whatever they can to open the door for Owen Farrell to come back.
I was saying downstairs, when you're playing for England, your risk of, you've obviously got the option for your stock to go up or it can crash. And when you're out of the picture for a bit, the worst case scenario is you just stay neutral, but often is the way things turn out. People all of a sudden, it's like, well, where's he? Why are we missing him? He's the answer all of a sudden. So I also think it's a minority that's heard more with the stuff Faz gets. You speak to most people face to face, or people who get it, they're huge fans, and all the people who play of him speak very highly of him, and it very much is the clickbait and the negative stuff gets elevated higher than anything that's positive, because that's just the way the algorithms work. I've forgotten what the even question was now.
I don't think it was a very good question. I wouldn't worry too much about it.
It was, the narrative will change.
Yes.
Yeah, of course it will. Yeah. Like now that he's not doing that.
Changing.
Now that he's not playing for England and he goes away to France, like it should be, he'll just be judged on how he's playing.
If
and
he
he's gonna
carves
play,
up.
yeah, he will. He will go away, probably win Europe, play really well, and
Yeah.
everybody will be like, wow.
Yeah.
And that's what I really hope. I'm sure it will happen, and I hope that for him as well.
I think him, if not him.
Jeremy George?
I think
Can you explain that?
So one of Eddie's advisors was called Neil Craig. He was AFL, Aussie football rules. Obviously knew the dynamics of coaching and an expert within that field, but knew nothing about rugby. So called Jeremy George for about 2 years. So I like that, Jeremy George, and I think Jeremy George could be the
Jeremy
captain.
George for England
Could
captain.
be, yeah.
That'd be a great appointment,
But
actually.
it's just
Augustus
like
Gloop.
it's like the
That'd be
Hunger
great,
Games at the moment. The lads who went to the World Cup, unfortunately, there's so many boys like Ellis Genge. George has hurt his knee a little. He's fine. Hurt his knee. Tom Curry, Sinclair, Manu, Tom Curry, Bevan Rod.
Yeah.
God knows who else. Boys who even were in the pre-season camp of it all. With it's a survival.
Courtney's retired. I mean, Courtney's playing better rugby than he's ever
he
played in
is.
his life.
Apparently he's off to Pro D2 in France.
Well, when we interviewed him, he did talk. I mean, that's a man who's definitely gone for the cash and for not quite a hard life, not quite as difficult as life as you
Probably play
want.
outside centre or something like that.
We
you know?
trained at Aix-en-Provence in the World Cup, and it's a great setup there.
Really?
Be a
Are you
really cool
tempted?
place.
Little sunshine on the back?
I'm just happy he's sat here for now.
Right.
Where's Tyndall?
He's Australia.
Got the sun
cashing
on
in.
his back in Australia.
Mm.
It's all this you can look forward to, Jonny May. Well done. That was a very good
Good intro
intro.
to rugby stuff.
Well done. Let the chaos continue. We're out, obviously, with the main show on Wednesday. Fascinating to see what happens with Owen Farrell, but I think everybody who loves the sport for the right reasons will acknowledge that he's put everything into England. He's got an amazing opportunity in front of him, and if it happens, what a brilliant story it would be. We shall watch this space with great interest.